Happy Thursday, and welcome here to another edition of Husker Online Headlines. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, breaking down all the headlines as we get ready for Saturday's Nebraska-Rutgers game. It's going to be a steamy, hot one. And by the way, happy haircut, Steve Sipple.
It looks good, doesn't it?
I actually thought you were trying to grow it out and go as Dana Holgerson for Halloween.
Oh, is that what you thought?
Yeah, you kind of had like a Dana Holgerson look going.
Yeah, you and Robin shamed me into getting a haircut.
You got to I got trimmed. I got shaved off today.
Yeah, it looks nice. It looks nice. I wasn't planning on getting one for a while.
You had it going. I mean, I was like, oh, there's Dana Holgerson coming in.
That's not a compliment because he always looks wild and unkempt. Is that what you were suggesting?
Possibly. All right, let's get into headlines here. Headline number one. Let's kick off the show. Nebraska faces a big momentum game here against Rutgers. You're looking at two scenarios here: 5-1 going into the bowl or bye week, one win away from a bowl game if you win this game. 2 straight weeks of kind of happiness, momentum. You go out to Indiana for probably maybe a big noon kickoff game, or a loss, and you're 4-2, and then that back six looks a lot different. I mean, put into words how big this week is for Nebraska.
Well, it's interesting, Sean, because you got to kind of remove yourself a little bit from the season and all the intensity that entails, and pull back to a broader discussion of Matt Rule's only in his second year of operating this program, and he's got a ways to go before he gets it to where he wants it. But along the way, you want to see progress, and progress wouldn't be losing to Rutgers on your home field. That would be something that suggests a lack of progress. Even though Rutgers is 4-0, I don't think Rutgers is as good as Illinois.
I don't either.
And I don't, we can have a discussion about this. I think the 2022 Rutgers team might have been better than this one. The defense was no doubt better. There's no doubt that Rutgers had a better defense in 2022. They're not as aggressive this year.
No pass rush numbers either.
Right. They don't have pass rush numbers. I think it must be a back end issue. They maybe don't trust the secondary like they trusted the secondary in 2022. I mean, Washington just put 521 yards on them, missed 3 field goals, and lost the game. But no, getting back to Nebraska, Sean, you're right. In the context of this season and in the schedule, it's just common sense. It feels like a big game to you from your perspective, but I guarantee you internally they look at it that way.
Well, and look at their schedule. Howard and Akron, they were able to really
Rutgers, yes.
We got to pull it up here. I mean, they were able to rack up some numbers, some yards, some stats, and that's how Greg Schiano likes to do it. And then they went on the road and got tested at Virginia Tech. And they won. They had a lead. They almost blew it, held on, and then they went at home against Washington. So they've played 2 quality teams the last couple of games in a row. They had a bye week between Washington and Virginia Tech. But to me, this will be a real true test for them. And they're not going to sneak up on Nebraska.
No, that's a good thing.
And I don't like to say this, but in some ways it felt like Illinois snuck up on Nebraska.
No, you made a great point earlier in the week off the air when you said it's probably a good thing for Nebraska that Rutgers is 4-0 instead of 2-2 and coming in here and people not maybe like the fan base, maybe not respecting Rutgers. And that conversation does bleed into a program. It does. It 100% does. And instead, we're making a pretty big deal out of Rutgers, and we're making a pretty big deal of Kyle Monangai.
Monangai.
That guy. And
that guy.
And that
Monangai.
Yeah, Kyle.
Just call him Kyle
that guy. So yeah, everybody knows about him and everybody knows the challenge, and it feels big, and it is big.
I mean, we've made Monangai sound like Adrian Peterson 05 coming into Memorial Stadium.
Okay, I get what you're saying, except, Sean, he did lead the Big Ten. He led the Big Ten in rushing last year. He was the Big Ten's best running back. Now, if you say you're the Big Ten's best running back, saying something.
He might be like a 2nd and 3rd rounder.
I don't
like
know.
The New York Giants, their GM was at their game Friday.
Okay.
So I don't know if it was there to watch Monangai or somebody in Washington, but the Giants had teams are definitely considering him as a high-level prospect. And he gets about 25 carries a game, which is rare in college football today. The day of the bell cow back just doesn't happen.
Right. He averages 147.3 rushing yards and 6 point something a carry. 6.1, I believe, is the number. Those numbers get your attention. He didn't get 100 against Virginia Tech. I think it was 24 for 86 in that range.
And I think that's about what Nebraska is going to hold them to. If it goes the way they want, that's about the number it needs to be.
Well, they should win. Then Nebraska should win if that's the case. I don't know. I don't want to say because I haven't seen much of him. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what a second-round NFL running back, maybe, if that's what he is, what that looks like in Memorial Stadium. So the challenge is clear. And got it, Sean. I mean, I'm just glad that these games feel big.
Yeah, no, and I think Schiano too. He's a guy that they'll be ready, and they'll
want to beat Nebraska.
They fight, they play to win, and they're going to do whatever it takes. I mean, they're going to try to block punts, kick. We're going to get into Monangai more and special teams more in our next headlines. I basically we already kind of delve into headline 2 there a little bit.
Oh God, we did, but we can go back to it. Yeah, Schiano. Here's the thing. Schiano's 58 years old. He's my age.
He's only 58.
He's 58 years old. In fact, he's exactly my age. I'm a month older than
he was a young head coach when he started out there.
Yeah, I'm a month older than Greg.
Holy cow, I would have put him at in his 60s.
No, 58. And what I'm getting at here, Sean, is he still looks at Nebraska as this, this major power, and it would be a big feather in Greg Schiano's cap to come in here and beat Nebraska in Lincoln, because he respects the program because he sees it through the lens of the past. Nebraska still does enough to garner respect, but a 58-year-old sees it through a little different lens than a 21-year-old. And he will impart to his players the importance of Rutgers beating Nebraska. He will. He should. That's what he should do.
Well, and since they've been in the Big Ten, they only beat Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State combined one time.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I think the flipping of divisions has helped them.
Oh, God, yes.
I mean, they're no longer
locked
into the games that they were locked into before.
That was it.
And even Penn State opted not to lock Rutgers in as a guaranteed play every year because they just didn't see a need to. But that's probably a benefit for Rutgers. Rutgers probably likes their chances against teams like UCLA. They beat Washington this year. And their style is ugly, it's physical, it's New Jersey tough, and he is the one guy that has figured out how to win at Rutgers.
Well, what they do, Sean, is count on you to make mistakes, because they don't try much. They're like you said, they're really conservative. They count on you to make mistakes. They play it very close to the vest offensively. Don't throw it downfield much. Again, they just count on you. They count on you to make an error, get out of a gap, and then Kyle, that guy, is running down the field. That's what they're counting on. That's what they're counting.
Before we go to headline number 2, thank you for joining us on HuskerOnline Headlines. We're brought to you by Ellerbrock-Norris. They've been helping Nebraska business owners protect their purpose for over 120 years with risk management solutions built for local businesses. Ellerbrock-Norris partners with you on commercial insurance, group benefits, business exit planning, safety, and more. Start thinking long-term with your business and create a risk management strategy to protect it. Are your employee benefit costs going through the roof? Talk to Ellerbrock. Are workplace injuries skyrocketing your workers' compensation costs? Talk to Ellerbrock. Hoping to retire in the next 10 years and sell the business to family, key employees, or even a friendly competitor? Talk to Ellerbrock. Ellerbrock-Norris is helping you protect your purpose, whether it's your business and the employees in it, your life outside of work, or your future retirement goals. Head to ellerbrock-norris.com/HuskerOnline today to get your free risk evaluation. Okay, I want to take it to headline 2.
No, just do it. We can still do it.
We kind of let the cat out of the bag, but Kyle Monangai is on Nebraska's mind. And, you mentioned the key to stopping this Rutgers team. It's clearly him. I mean, what they're going to do. They're not going to hide what they're going to do. The key is the yards after contact.
Oh, yes.
Monangai averages almost 4 yards per carry after contact.
Good God. Yeah, I think he has 367 yak yards this year.
He's like 3.7 per carry after contact.
Okay, that's why we can do this second headline still. There's so much to say. If 2-yard runs are bleeding into 4 and 5, come on.
It changes the game.
Naturally trouble. And you know me, Sean, I'm not always a barrel of laughs. I understand. In one way to make Sipple crabby on Saturday afternoon is to see this guy bleeding forward for
Just
5
giving
and
free
6.
piggyback rides.
Yeah. And then you know what you don't want to see on your home field ever, and you used to see it here a little too much. Him getting in a pile of guys, and then a couple of his big teammates pushing the pile forward 4 yards
Into the end zone.
Yeah, and it's just such a weak position that the defense finds itself in. Don't be in that position.
Well, and here's the deal. Up front, Matt Rule disclosed today even that Jamari Butler has been battling injury.
Okay.
So they are a little limited up front. I mean, obviously, they're going to need Nash and Ty to play big.
Yeah.
Like those two guys have to play at a high level. They have to get Jamari Butler for a workload with Cam Lenhart.
Got to get Lenhart going at a high level.
And, I don't know the answer to this, but like Riley Van Poppel, he has 2 games left to play. Would this be a game that he plays a little more with the heat and the other elements?
Oh, it's a great question.
Sean.
Like that is a good question.
Like, do you but he didn't travel to West Lafayette last week.
No.
So it tells you
what?
It just, you just don't know. Like,
okay, balance what you just said against what we said in the opener, how big this game is. And the answer to the question in my mind is clear. If they need Van Poppel, you play him. That's it.
For 10 snaps, 8 snaps, 6 snaps. But
that's game 3 for him, right?
Yep.
You still have one to play with. No, the answer's clear. You play him. You got to win. We know the importance of this game. It's not do or die. Again, I don't want to make it sound like it's a do or die game. It's not a must win. It's close though.
But you get to say if you get to 5 wins, then all you have to do is beat either a struggling UCLA or a struggling Wisconsin team in Lincoln to go to a bowl.
Yeah, but you want more than that.
You want more than that. But we've had this, like, you can't get ahead of it. You've got to learn how to crawl before you can walk. And Nebraska's got to get to 6 before they can think about 7 or 8.
All right. So this is big.
This is big.
Yeah. So you answered your question.
Step closer to 6. And I'm taking that step to 6 very seriously because I've sat home at Christmas on Christmas Eve, making prime rib, going to church. I want to be on a goddamn bowl trip. I don't want to be sitting around my house.
I don't know if you want your wife to hear this.
No, they'll come with me. They're coming with me.
Okay,
they're going to come with it. Okay. I don't want to be sitting around another Christmas. I want to be somewhere. I want to be with you on some trip, scrambling around at a coffee shop, writing practice reports.
Right. I do too. God, I bless you. I really do.
We haven't done that since I was 36 years old. I'm 44 now.
Yeah, they need to get rolling.
I mean, when you put it in those terms, like how old were you 8 years ago? 350?
I was 50.
Or 49.
I was a young 49. Now I'm an old 58.
Yeah. So they're 49. Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm like, this game really does matter. Monangai stopping him, or Sipple like to say, Kyle, that guy.
Okay. I love the question about Van Poppel, but I think you answered it. You answered it really strongly with that kind of half rant. That was kind of a rant, Sean. That was a rant.
And then, Javin Wright played about 15 snaps last week.
13.
So can they up his workload? Because they're gonna need the front 7 to play in this game.
Yeah, guys like John Bullock, who's been playing at a super high level, big in this game. Bayer, big in this
New Jersey
game.
guy, Makai Bayer.
Yeah,
by the
Bayer
way.
should come to play for sure. The defense has been coming to play for the most part. I mean, they really, I'd say sort of redeemed themselves a little bit against Purdue, I thought. By the way, they bottled up Devin Mockabee and Reggie Love. Mockabee finished with 13 carries for 41 yards. Excellent job by the defense. It was. Couldn't get him untracked.
I mean, they fired the job was so well done that they fired their offensive coordinator.
Yep.
Graham Harrell was fired by Purdue.
Yeah, Ryan Walters fired his OC on Sunday. So, yeah, I think the defense is ready for this.
They promoted a former high school coach to be their OC.
Oh, that's wonderful. Is that right?
Yeah. He's on the staff now, but like I believe he was an analyst. I mean, I don't the thing about when you fire, here's the challenge. When you fire an offensive coordinator during this season and your head coach is defensive minded, you better make sure you have somebody on your staff that knows how to call offensive plays.
Oh God, yes.
It is a huge, when like Frost called plays when he was fired, luckily you had Whipple already here.
Yeah, he knew
that was a play call. Ryan Held, though, he was on the previous staff. He had been a play caller before, but not a lot of assistant coaches have experience managing and calling plays.
Right. Oh,
And so when you do a firing like Purdue just did, and Graham Harrell was so in charge of that offense, it is a big deal in the middle of the season.
Yeah, Purdue. Yeah, and let's just say Purdue's a mess. They're a mess. They look like, if you look at the rest of their schedule, 2-10 would be good for them.
What's the percentage that Ryan Walters comes out of this a lot?
50-50.
50. I mean, they got to show some fight.
Yeah, 50-50.
All right, before we take it to headline number 3, thank you for joining us on Husker Online Headlines. Are brought to you here by Pediatric Place at St. Elizabeth in Lincoln. Children are little, but their emergencies are not. And we all know accidents and illnesses don't wait, unfortunately, until 8 o'clock in the morning on Mondays. That's why CHI Health St. Elizabeth offers Lincoln's only ER just for kids, Pediatric Place. It's located on the west side of CHI Health St. Elizabeth, right next to the ER. It's open 24/7 for pediatric emergency care. It offers child-friendly rooms and a private waiting area to help put kids at ease. Expert staff, they specialize in pediatric emergency care. To learn more about Lincoln's only ER for kids, visit chihealth.com/pediatric place. And I got to give CHI some props. My daughter Kit last night, she kind of had wasn't feeling the best after swim practice, and we took her right over to the priority care at CHI on Yankee Hill. And within 30 minutes, they had seen her. We had a prescription written for her. I picked it up, and she was well on her way. So CHI providing great services at all of their products, but Pediatric Place at St. E's, a wonderful service here in Lincoln. Also, Steve Sibble, I want to announce again that next week on Thursday, October 10th, we are going to be at the Zip Line Tap Room and Restaurant in Fallbrook at 6 p.m. for a special live show, just like we did before. We're not going to be out south, though. We're going to be in Fallbrook, which is northwest Lincoln, at their brand new pristine tap room, bar, grill, restaurant.
It's nice.
And it is very nice. And we're going to be on the patio outside. I did a walkthrough, a site inspection.
Oh boy.
And it's going to be really
Aren't
nice.
you important?
We're going to have an outdoor setup on this patio that can fit, 200 people on the patio.
That sounds fun.
But then the restaurant inside will be full. They'll have the show on inside. They're going to have canned beer for purchase outside, so they can just get you cans right away. No waiting on tap beer. They were not. I mean, nobody was ready for 200-300 people.
No,
So
it'll be fun. Have a couple of those zip lights ready for me, please.
And we'll have them ready. And they're gonna have tacos on special.
Oh God, have a couple tacos ready for me.
I think they're considering it's like 3 tacos and a Zipline canned beer, a Zipline for $12.
Tacos with warm meat.
Yes,
That's what we want.
all right. So join us next Thursday night at Zipline. We will be there for the live show. Starts at 6. Obviously, you want to get there around 5 or so, get a seat, order, and we will hang out after, tell stories, have fun. It's the bye week.
I don't know how much I'm going to hang out over.
Well, the Harley, you'll be really busy. You'll be really busy giving Harley rides.
That's true.
To
But
all the
not to you.
All the beautiful women that show up to meet you.
Well, there's always that.
You got that problem, Dana.
All right, move
All
to
right, let's take it to
headline.
headline.
Headline 4
I made you
welcome
uncomfortable enough. Headline number 3. We're on 3.
It's just 3. Okay.
Huskers look to clean up special
Oh
teams.
God.
And this stat should scare the hell out of you.
Okay.
Rutgers has blocked 71 kicks under Greg Schiano in his time.
16 years.
And
That's 16.
186 games, I think.
I don't whatever 16 years.
And
Yeah, that sounds
they
about
have
right.
63 or 62 non-offensive touchdowns.
Oh wow.
But 71 block
71
kicks.
So that's 17 field goals blocked, 13
PATs.
PATs, and then 41
Punts.
punts. Yeah.
Glad you read my stuff this
I
week.
did read your stuff. Sean, that is a scary stat. Now Rutgers has not blocked a kick this year. So not this year yet. But yeah, it's a problem. And it's a problem that's been much talked about. It's Nebraska's issues largely are in the kicking game, and it's mainly an operations discussion. It's the operation that's been the problem. There's a look at Ed Foley, who's trying to rectify this probably as we speak.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, they had 2. I mean, very rarely can you say this. They had 2 2 field goals blocked at Purdue. You just don't. Both bad snaps. And then they missed a 42-yarder with it was a good snap. Okay. Now, if it was just that, it would be problematic. But what compounds this discussion's seriousness is they haven't been very good in any special teams. Here's the numbers. You ready? You ready?
Yeah.
These numbers are not, I mean, this is unpleasant. Okay.
Not
Nebraska,
safe for young children.
No, not really safe. Net punting. Nebraska is 128th nationally. Okay. That's 33.53 yards average. 128th nationally. Punt returns, which have been better, still 95th nationally, Sean. 5.78 per return. Punt return defense, 114th nationally. Okay. Kickoff returns. That's been maybe that's the closest thing resembling a bright spot. 49th nationally. Kickoff return defense, 98th nationally. I don't know what else to say. Don't apologize for complaining. Don't apologize. I was driving by that stadium on the way here to do this, to do our show. You drive by that stadium and it's a gorgeous stadium. It's a monster. And it's a monster because it needs to be a monster because it's a passionate fan base that fills that thing. Nebraska fans have been intensely loyal. They devote a lot of energy, economic energy. I mean, they invest their time. They invest their emotional. They invest emotions. They just want good football. That's all that. Come on, Sean. They're not. This isn't a needy fan base. It's not anymore. It's not. Look, I'm not saying it. They're not a needy. Fan base.
And these are simple things.
They want good football.
Like they've got hard things figured out. Like Dylan Raiola, his arm talent. Not everybody has that.
No, they got some things.
There's a lot of people in America that can kick and punt and cover kicks.
Right.
That should not be an issue.
I know. And don't. I've heard some people say, I don't want to complain. Yeah, go ahead. It's okay. You expect to see good football. And you're not seeing good football in special teams. And I guarantee you it gnaws at the head coach. I guarantee it.
Well, I think it's a fair question. Should they have addressed more in the portal at long snapper? You know, Kentucky was the backup last year to Ortiz.
Yeah.
Did they have
fine.
And they added Flaggy late. But
Aiden Flaggy.
Kentucky never played last year.
No, Sean. My read on it, though, is they were very happy with Kentucky in the spring and in August. So I don't want to go there and second guess it. Maybe maybe you can. Maybe it's fair. But it seemed like Kentucky was going to be the answer until he wasn't.
Because if you go to the portal, you're almost giving up on him at that point.
Right.
And so they wanted to believe in him and go with. And we've never, in my history of doing shows and talking Huskers, talked about long snappers.
Not like, no.
Ever.
No,
I've never done it before.
Yeah. And we've talked about how, like, in the last 3 to 5 years, it just was not even close to an issue. They just had excellent long snapping.
I mean, there was that one, I forget what his name was, but Papuchis found him and brought him in, and he was like a 4-year wire-to-wire starter. And we never talked about him once.
Right. So, yeah, it's now you kind of get to this point where it's sort of uncomfortable because you're talking about these kids and the pressure gets to be sort of inordinate. And then it can compound the issue. So I almost kind of say, let's shut it down. We talked about it, and let's just see how it is, Sean, on Saturday. Let's just see how it is.
No, and Matt Rule today at Thursday's practice, he said that the kicking and the operations have been great all week.
Okay.
And so they've had a good week. And look, they had a good second half.
They did. And I'm glad you mentioned that. The PATs, they kicked 4 of them. And they were all fine. The operation was fine, and that's meaningful because it's an operation issue.
Because the kicks that were getting blocked weren't far off from extra points.
Right.
I mean, they were chips.
Right. So that it's meaningful that the operation worked well for those PATs, and then if it was good in practice, that's a good sign. And what Rule has said is those kids got to take it to the game. It's been okay in practice, I think, a lot of the time, but you got to take it to the ball game.
All right, before we take it to headline number 4, thank you for joining us on Husker Online Headlines. This segment is brought to you by Tavern 180 in Lincoln and Omaha, particularly here in Lincoln, 30th Yankee Hill Road. You are going to get top-of-the-line steaks at Tavern 180. The Wagyu, the prime ribeye. Oh, it's one of the only places in town you're going to get a Wagyu cut in Lincoln, prime ribeye. premium side items. They have great sandwiches, burgers, even brunch on the weekends. If you want a brunch meal on Saturday or Sunday, they do offer brunch as well at Tavern 180. Excellent drinks, the fancy martinis that steam and smoke. Have you seen those before?
Yes, Sean.
Really, really good.
Yeah, sounds good.
You've been
the Wagyu sounds.
Oh, Wagyu's amazing.
Oh God. Yeah, you almost want to get two of them.
We used to do the show with the McGowan's brothers up here. They were a sponsor with Bryce and Trey, and they would bring that stuff up here, and it was gone pretty quickly.
Did you get to eat it too?
Yeah, Robin and I, yeah.
Wow, what a life you lead, Sean.
Not bad.
What a life.
Thank you to Tavern 180 for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Great place to go, though, if you're looking to grab a quick lunch before the game, Sunday brunch after the game, hopefully celebrating a victory. Check them out in Lincoln here, 30th and Yankee Hill Road. They're out there by Village Point off Dodge Street, West Dodge Road as well in Omaha. That's Tavern 180 here in Lincoln, 30th and Yankee Hill Road, right next to Tanner's. Okay, let's take it into headline number 4, and I want to talk about the weather. Get ready for October heat and wind, as this will be, a really, really good test for Dylan Raiola, and I think a telling point what his arm talent can mean, because on a day like this, a lot of teams are going to be hampered by the winds. If they're blowing out of the south like we expect, and usually when it's 95 degrees in October, there's going to be a air blower coming from the south.
From the south, that's exactly right.
And so when you're heading south, it's a hard throw to make. But Dylan does have the arm talent to cut the wind.
Yes, he does. I mean, and I've said it before, but it's apt to say it right now. If I'm a coach, I'm recruiting big quarterbacks like Dylan. Big quarterbacks, big hands, guys that can whip it into wind. In this case, it'll be hot. It really gets to be a situation in the Big Ten when it gets cold and wet. And I don't want a 6-foot, 180-pounder back there with small hands. I saw what it looked like in the NFL on Sunday with Bo Nix at Denver. He had a hard time throwing in that New York weather. It was bad weather. He was shot putting the ball like I do. I mean, you need a guy who can get back there and rip it. And Nebraska has a guy that can rip it. So they should be okay.
Isn't it funny that we always talk about, Nebraska is so cold, and it's going to be 95 in October.
So strange.
And
so strange.
There's a chance that we may not have a cold home game this year. Who knows?
It's very strange weather. I mean, it feels like this is all right. Now we're at Super Saver in line. I get it. But it feels like we're going to have the kind of fall where there's really no fall. It just goes from kind of summer to winter. It'll just drop off the table.
It's like we live in Fresno right now. It's so hot, though. Not quite that hot.
Yeah, I don't see the San Joaquin Valley anywhere. But but I loved it.
Fresno was one of the hottest places I've ever been to ever.
Yeah, it was really rough.
It was so hot.
It was really rough in the press box.
Oh, God, it was terrible.
It was. Anyway, yeah, it is. Okay, now what people will wonder, Sean, is your take on this. Who does it favor one of the teams, a 95-degree day with a strong wind out of the south? Does it favor somebody?
I mean, if Rutgers can run the ball well, they're going to say it favors them.
Right.
Because, even if you don't get points, if you can get in that neighborhood of midfield, you're going to be punting even into the wind for field position. Okay,
there's that. Now, to reverse it, Nebraska, we established, has the strong arm quarterback who can throw it into the wind. You're not always going to have the wind. You're not always going to be going into the wind. You're going to have the wind behind you sometimes. Now, Callie McManus is not a strong arm quarterback. He'll have trouble throwing it into the wind, a lot of trouble. He won't have trouble throwing it with it. I think it's a wash is what I'm saying.
Well, I think Nebraska safeties need to make some plays today, because there's going to be some opportunities on Saturday where the ball gets caught up.
Oh, yeah. And they'll have to go through that in warm-ups. I mean, a good defensive back coach will take his guys and say, okay, when depending on which way we're going, you're going to have to adjust, because there's going to be when Rutgers is going into the wind, you play the ball differently than when they're going with the wind, and I'm sure that'll be addressed.
The game I'll never forget, it was an October game just like this, Oklahoma, Nebraska, 2005.
Okay,
Dusty Voracek, Adrian Peterson, Zach Taylor. Yeah. Nebraska lost that game by 7, but it was a day like this where it was like a south wind, like 30 miles an hour, to the point where at the end of like the second quarter or the end of the third quarter, or the end of the first quarter or third quarter, you might call timeouts to preserve a punt with the wind.
Oh, interesting.
Or a field goal.
Interesting.
I mean, that's the kind of game it's going to be. And I remember Bob Stoops called the timeout to make sure he had the wind for a punt.
Next level. That's next level.
And that's the kind of game this is going to be, where, you might look at the clock at the end of a first quarter or at the end of the third and say, if you don't have the win or vice versa, you might
take a timeout.
Use a timeout to make sure you get the win for a certain situation.
Yep. It'll have an impact.
Well, and think about if the stadium ever tore down that end zone.
Yeah, how the south end zone.
And Matt Rule, I know, and Troy Dannon have talked about this. Dannon particularly, that was one of their concerns. If we didn't have a south end zone here at Nebraska for 2 years, on a day like tomorrow or Saturday,
it'd be overwhelming.
I mean, it would. Well, you walk in between those buildings when the wind howls.
Yes,
it's a tunnel
on the west side of the stadium.
On the west,
there's no windier part of Lincoln than the west side of Memorial.
Arguably
Stadium.
Nebraska.
Yeah, on a typical day.
I remember Old Father Hall walking on campus. It was kind of the same thing around there. It would just be so windy in that little area.
Yeah. So that's a big storyline in this game. It'll be a key
managing that wind
and the heat.
In the heat.
Yeah.
And like the depth. That's why for Nebraska, they can't let Rutgers have like 7-8 play drives.
Right.
Because to win this game, they need Nash Hutmacher and Ty Robinson fresh and doing their business. But if those guys have to come out of the game because they're getting wore down, that's good. That plays in the hands of Monangai.
Yeah. How will Rutgers be ready for this? I mean, I don't.
It gets hot in New Jersey, but not like this.
It does.
No, and Shiano has recognized the heat they're walking into. Nebraska it would be funny if they said we're going to wear white alternates, and then Rutgers would have to wear their blacks.
Oh God, yeah, and Nebraska moved its sideline, which will look really smart on this day. I mean, Nebraska will be in the shade on the west side, right, and Rutgers will be square in the heat for the whole game. I
wouldn't
wear black uniforms if I was them. I wouldn't. Can you? They don't have to.
They can wear reds.
Yeah, I would wear the reds
or the whites.
Yeah, I'd rather the whites.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I don't think you want to have your guys standing over there in black uniforms.
And Greg Schiano is a control freak. He's very much like a Bill Snyder, like set the thermostat at a certain level type of guy. I mean,
could Rutgers wear their all black on the road?
I don't know.
I
mean, I think the home team gets to decide what they want to wear, though. Like if they had an alternate or something, Matt Rule just finds the old white alternates they wore. Remember, it was at Northwestern one year. They wore the white on whites.
Yeah.
Hey, Jay Terry, pull out the white on whites. Get them out.
I do remember that.
That'd be a perfect day to wear them. But
okay, what do we got now?
All right. Before we take it to headline number 5, Steve, you're moving me on.
Yeah, you can only talk so much about weather, Sean.
Headline number 5 brought to you by who?
Larson Motors, Sean. If you're looking for a new vehicle, how about go for a new experience in Nebraska City at Larson Motors? It's one of the Midwest's only dealerships with all the major brands in one location. Find your new Chevrolet, GMC, Hummer, Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram. Never has been easier. Start your new experience today at LarsonMotorGroup.com. That's LarsonMotorGroup.com or at Larson Motors in Nebraska City. Larson Motors, real people,
real deals.
That's
Mr. Sipple.
There you go, Sean.
All right. Headline number 5, odds and ends. Lots to get to. I want to start on this odds and ends.
Odds and ends.
Ndamukong Suh will be inducted into the Nebraska Hall of Fame. So it's kind of confusing if you're just kind of a casual fan. There's the longtime Nebraska Football Hall of Fame. And that's been for decades. And the minimum requirement to be in that is you have to be at least an all-conference player, I believe, first or second team, to some level. And that's been going on for years. The Nebraska School Hall of Fame, though, is a completely different thing that just recently, it's less than 10 years old, but Ndamukong Suh will highlight this year's inductee class. Jordan Hooper's in this class as well, the women's basketball player, Carl Myerscough, a shot put thrower for my time when I was at Nebraska. But first and foremost, let's talk about Suh, because there has not been a more impactful player in this program since the national title era than Ndamukong Suh.
That's a good way to put it. He was incredibly impactful. He was someone who, as a defensive player, legitimately could have won the Heisman Trophy. Nobody would have batted an eye. He was that good. I don't even know how to. I mean, when he was playing for Nebraska, Well, I mean, I guess the best compliment the best compliment I give players in general is he was worth the price of admission just to watch 93. It was stunning sometimes how he would take over a game.
The Texas game.
The Texas game in Jerry's World. Is that what you're talking about? The Big 12 title game, which I always refer to because I was watching it on the giant screen. And that giant screen in Jerry's World, even back then, was incredibly sharp. The view was sharp. And the fear in Colt McCoy's eyes was real. It was
in their O-line.
Yeah, but when they would show McCoy in the gun, taking the snap, and the look of fear was evident. It was because of Suh, because Suh was back there all the time. He's back in the backfield all the time.
Well, and Suh ended up coming back. And look, he didn't come on really till the end of his junior year at the level that we got to know.
The end of his junior year.
Like the Kansas game and the Colorado game, you really saw how big he was.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Colorado game, pick 6 at the end of the game. But then the Clemson game, Dabo Sweeney's first season at Clemson when he took over for Bowden, when Bowden was fired, Suh dominated the Gator Bowl.
He had the package. He had the entire package in that he was physically extremely gifted, extremely strong, quick twitch. He was extremely intelligent. Anybody who's listened to Suh, watched him play, very intelligent player. And he had the intangibles. He had a high degree of want-to. He was a very vicious football player. You can tell he loved the violence of football. There's players, Sean, who love the violence. They love it, but they feed off of it. You can be violent on a football field. You can't be violent on O Street, but you can be violent on a football field. And I've talked to players over the years who just love that football violence, and he loved it.
Well, you might remember.
Seemed like he loved it. He seemed like he loved it.
I think it was the Callahan era. Might have been Bo's first year or Callahan's last year.
Okay.
There was a practice fight.
Oh, God.
And he got into it with Victory Haynes.
Oh, God, yes.
And I mean, and punched him.
Yeah.
And ended his career.
Right.
I mean, he was done.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Victory Haynes was done.
Victory Haynes, like,
yeah.
I mean, that's how physical and violent Suh could be.
Yeah. I mean, in a good way, though. I mean, maybe that exact example wasn't perfect, but yeah, I mean, he was a vicious player. He's feared. And that's in football, that's a great compliment if you're feared. And he was feared.
And, he could have went pro after his junior year and been a first rounder, but he wanted to be like at the top of the first round. And he accomplished that. I still can never believe that. Was Gerald McCoy picked ahead of him?
I think so. McCoy, it was always sort of a discussion that season. Oklahoma, Gerald McCoy, McCoy was an Oklahoma star. And for some time during that season, there was sort of debate who's better. There was a point, though, where it became a Todd
McShay, though, would like double down and like take on Nebraska fans back then that, McCoy was better.
That's a horrible take, though. It was a horrible take. I mean, it became evident at some point that there was no debate.
I mean, I think Suh, if he doesn't make the first ballot of the NFL Hall of Fame, he's going to make the NFL Hall of Fame.
Right. I mean, one way to put Suh in perspective, that's one. The other is, I don't know that we realistically can say that we'll see another defensive lineman as good as Suh at Nebraska. I would be surprised if we see another someone like that was that impactful. I don't know if we ever will. Now, that's a huge compliment. I mean, that's a huge.
You know what I wish I could have seen, but it never happened. I would have loved to have seen Levante David and Suh on the same defense. They missed each other by a year.
Yeah, Suh did play on a great defense, though.
But Suh played with Levante in Tampa. But you're right. Yeah, the 09 defense, and they didn't substitute. Do you remember?
The corners of that team were Dennard and Amakamara.
With Gomes and Haig at the nickel and in the dime.
Right.
And then the safeties, was it Austin Cassidy?
Maybe. I don't remember the safeties. I hate to say that, but I don't remember every guy in the team, but
Hanlon was a safety.
Okay. But they were just loaded up. He played alongside Crick. I mean, how's that ever going to get better than
with
that?
Barry Turner and Pierre Allen? I mean,
right.
that was
oh God. I mean, just the fact that they had Crick and Suh alongside each other
with Steinkühler off the bench.
What do you do? What do you do?
But yeah, special moment. Myerscough, I'll never forget that he's probably one of the biggest, most physically imposing people I've ever seen on this campus.
Right.
That's all athletes.
World-class thrower.
He was a national champion from Great Britain, and he lived in the Selleck Quad dorms there when I was in school. And you'd see that guy. And I mean, it was like the real life Mountain from Game of Thrones.
Well, there you go.
Mountain was a very intimidating character. I know you haven't seen.
I have no idea what you're talking about at that point. No earthly idea.
All right, round the Big Ten. We got Michigan State at Oregon on Friday.
Okay.
Oregon's big favorite in that game.
Okay.
Purdue at Wisconsin. Obviously, we'll be watching that one closely. The natives are restless in Madison.
They should be, because you wonder about Wisconsin making a bowl game this year. You really do.
ESPN does not have Wisconsin in the bowls right now.
Wisconsin is very ordinary. That's the best way to describe.
Oh, they lost their quarterback for the year.
Yeah, now they have Braden Locke playing, who's a very ordinary quarterback, and they don't. I mean, what they don't have, if you just want to get down to it, they don't have the pop at running back. Ches Malusi's a good running back, but he's not Braylon Allen. He's not. Name some of the guys of the past. Sean Whip,
Melvin Gordon, Monty Ball, James White.
Nothing like that. Corey Clement, nothing like that. Nothing. They don't have it.
Yeah, and they chose to get off the blueprint. I mean, they did in Nebraska 02, 03.
Yep, they did.
You know, they had Jimmy
UAD.
Leonard. They had Jimmy Leonard, and McIntosh JD didn't want to go with him.
It's interesting to me that it's informative to me that they didn't. It's too good of a comparison Nebraska that makes you wonder, did they not notice what happened in Nebraska? Yeah, because it looks like it's unfolding in Madison now.
And it's been, and maybe Alvarez is talking more, but it seems like Alvarez is shut down.
Never hear from him.
Like, I honestly don't know where he was kind of brought in to help the Big Ten. Like, he's kind of out of the picture now.
Yeah. He lives in Florida. I mean,
retired.
Yeah. Even when he was working, he spent a lot of time in Florida. So I'm sure he's in Florida right now, just watching it all.
All right. UCLA at Penn State, Nittany Lions 27.5 point. A lot of big spreads this week.
UCLA is getting a harsh welcome into the Big Ten, and it's going to get really rough when they go into Happy Valley, because Happy Valley, that Penn State team isn't a world-beating team, but it is a very physical team, as you saw when we were watching on Saturday night. They are a physically dominant type.
It's an 11 a.m. game.
Oh God, it's going to be
for UCLA. Yeah. I wonder how they attack that if they fly out a day earlier.
I don't know.
I mean, you almost would have to, wouldn't you?
I would think so. Yeah. How would you not?
Get there Thursday evening.
Yeah.
And then you get up Friday, do a practice out there Friday. I mean, maybe I don't know if who knows if they have the money to do that.
Yeah.
Somebody was telling me UCLA, I believe their volleyball team, when they came up here, they flew commercial.
Gosh. Wow.
Which, I mean, that's unheard of for volleyball, basketball, football. Like for the Big Ten level.
Yeah, they're not blessed like in terms of budget.
Yeah, the state of California has got a lot of bills to pay.
Yeah, don't go there.
We won't go there. Indiana at Rutgers or Northwestern. Indiana 13.5 point road favorite. That's a 2:30 game on BTN. And we're interested in that because there's a good chance Indiana's undefeated. That's their last game before the bye.
Mm-hmm.
They have a bye as well.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa is a 19.5 point dog at Ohio State. And then Michigan is a 2.5 point dog on the road at Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And Minnesota is an 8 point dog at home to USC.
Those are interesting games. It's not a marquee slate, but what those West Coast teams that joined the conference, like USC going to Minnesota, is fascinating to me. How's that going to look? Probably look pretty good for USC. But yeah, like UCLA going into Happy Valley. I mean, it's not going to be a very good game, I don't think, but it still intrigues me to see how UCLA handles it.
Yeah, there's 8 games this weekend, and 5 of them have spreads of 13.5 or more.
Yeah, this isn't like, even across college football, this isn't a marquee week. There's always good games, but it's not, there's no Georgia, Alabama playing.
And then speaking of marquee, the Big Ten and the SEC are having this big powwow in Nashville next week,
Thursday,
where the ADs and commissioners and
just the ADs. Just the ADs. Oh yeah, and the commissioners, the two commissioners
to figure out possibly a scheduling alliance. And if you look at the highest rated games in college football, they're all Big Ten and all SEC.
So they're talking about playoff access too,
and they want 4 guaranteed spots
between the two,
each league.
That's obnoxious.
Well, the playoffs going to expand to 14.
That it's still obnoxious, and I agree with Jamie Pollard of Iowa State. And that's essentially what he said. College football is run amok, a lot of it, and that's an example. I'm happy that Nebraska's in the Big Ten. They're in the Power League. SEC's the Power League, but it's not. I don't want it to be where it's just
TV rating driven.
So much power in those two leagues, and then there's the ACC and Big 12 just left to kind of.
They're just like weaker countries.
Yeah, Pollard was very, very critical of this Big Ten SEC getting together and demanding this, flexing their muscles and saying we should have 4 guaranteed spots. Come on,
you know what they're going to say? They're just going to laugh. They'll fine. We'll do it anyway.
I know.
That's
college football run amok. That's what that is.
They have no power.
It's unfortunate. It's not, Sean, you can sit over there and say, well, I cover Nebraska. That's all I care about. You should care about the game, the sport in general. And I'm with Pollard on this. It's no good if Iowa State's inconsequential. It's no good to you. It's
they would
good to
give
anybody.
the Big 12 and the ACC would get 2 bids each.
Again, if I were the commissioners of those leagues, I wouldn't let it happen. I would not let the Big Ten and SEC do what they're trying to do.
And well, if they didn't do the 4 guaranteed bids, those leagues could get more bids.
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. This all goes to this conversation that Gundy and some other coaches have had. There needs to be a commissioner.
They also want to eliminate the committee.
There needs to be a commissioner.
The 2 Power 2 leagues want no more committee, because they think it's even silly to try to compare, a Big 12 team to a mighty SEC team.
Yeah, Sankey is. I recognize why he peacocks around, because he's got all the power, but it's a little obnoxious.
Considering he inherited the power.
Right.
It wasn't,
Greg Sankey's the SEC commissioner, and he's ultra cocky. And I get it. I get it, because look at the league. Look at Alabama, Georgia in that game. What'd you see out there? How many NFL players did you see? You saw a dozen, and you maybe saw. I think Milroe maybe became a top 5 pick.
How about DeBoer?
Yeah, Kalen DeBoer.
Just his ability to coach quarterbacks.
Yeah. So
they were trying to run Milroe out of there at one point.
Last year he got benched. And he got benched. He came back strong, though.
But DeBoer as a quarterback developer.
Yeah, no, Milroe came back strong. Saban hung with him. Don't paint it any other way.
They didn't have any other option, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Milroe's a great player. Anyway, yeah, so the meetings occur Thursday, I believe, in Nashville, where all the athletic directors from the Big Ten teams and the SEC teams get together, and it's about playoff access, about future scheduling, and there's probably a couple other things. Oh, a postseason, having the teams meet more in the bowl postseason.
And they also want I think they want to get on the same page to each play 9 conference games.
That's a big one.
So my theory is you'd play 9 league games and maybe have 1 SEC game a year. That's 10.
Wow.
And then you'd play 2 kind of home game cupcake games against lower leagues, right?
I don't know, but I like the idea. That's hard. I wonder what Matt Rule would say about that. We're going to play our league schedule, plus we're going to play an SEC team.
It's what they're doing now.
Not quite that.
Nebraska played Oklahoma in 9 league games. What's the difference?
Well, it depends who that SEC team is, but don't tell me Nebraska's played a schedule of 9 Big Ten teams plus Alabama.
Well, first of all, Nebraska's SEC game, if you're no fool, are you? Because they're going to play them against Oklahoma. They're going to play them against Missouri. They're going to play them against Texas A&M
or Texas
or teams that actually
9 league games plus a game against Texas. 9 league games plus a game at Texas A&M. Okay. Let's do it. It's great for us. But if I'm the head coach, I don't know.
They're not going to waste Vanderbilt on Vanderbilt.
Don't know. Are you a fool? Have you seen what Rule has said? He wants to back off the
but if
the non-conference schedule.
Who's
the fool?
I'm just telling you, that's who they'll play though. They're doing that right now. They're playing Oklahoma. They're playing Tennessee.
That's not what the head coach wants.
But that's what they already have.
Oh, they didn't have it this year.
Well, Colorado.
You comparing Colorado to Texas right now? Really? What do you think that spread would be?
But they're not going to waste Colorado.
What do you think that spread would be right now? Texas, Colorado. Well, 27 probably.
They're not going to waste Texas on Nebraska.
How about Texas, Alabama? What do you think that? Or how about Texas? How about Oklahoma, Colorado? What do you think that spread would be? 14.
Oklahoma's not great this year.
14. I know they're not great. It'd still be 14.
But I'm saying like those would be if everybody's on the same page with scheduling, it's different. It's not like Nebraska's the only team that's going to be doing this.
True.
Everybody's going to do it.
Not everybody, not all conferences.
Yeah, like who would you play Iowa against in the SEC?
No. Not all conferences are doing that.
Yeah, but these two leagues will be guaranteed their playoff spots, so they won't be penalized for playing these games.
God dang. I just don't know if Nebraska's ready for that.
Well, we're talking years down the road.
How far?
I mean, at least 2 or 3, probably.
We better get ready then.
Well,
because that's rough waters. If that's what you're doing, if you're going to Tennessee for your non-conference game, I mean, come on, that's rough.
I got you going there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like where it's going necessarily. I don't like that big flex. Dan would kill me. We're gonna have him on next week probably. Dan would kill me probably for saying that stuff. But I look at the greater good more than just what's good for Nebraska.
We're not running the Red Cross here.
It sounds haughty, Sean.
I mean, we're not running a charity.
No, I know, but
it's a business.
I know, but you can run your business into the ground with bad decisions. And you might benefit in sort of this in the smaller picture, but the big picture matters too.
We'll see. All right. Well,
I should be the commissioner of college football.
The grump of college football. The grump. All right. Well, we will be back Saturday night. Game will end around 6:30. Hopefully we'll be on about 8:30-ish, 9 o'clock in that range when the game ends.
Hold on a second. 3 to 6:30. Yeah.
8:30.
8:30.
So plan on joining us at 8:30 for Husker Online Post-Game Live, brought to you by our official beverage sponsor, Zip Line. And remember, we are going to be out at Zip Line next week, Thursday, for a mid-season spectacular at the Fallbrook Zip Line Restaurant, 6 p.m. live show. Free Harley rides from Steve Sipple. They're giving out prizes.
Certain people.
They're gonna have lots of prizes, lots of other great things going on out there. There's no charge to come out. It's a free live show. We're doing it for you. We had a great turnout of 200 to 300 folks last time.
Oh man.
And it was a lot of fun. So please join us. And if you're not a member of Husker Online, we got a great promo. We're going to give you $40 off right now of an annual subscription by simply using the promo code Husker40. That's promo code Husker40 to get $40 off your annual sub right now at Husker Online. That's the best deal you can get for Husker Online. So thank you very much. Thank you, Steve Sipple. That wraps it up here for another edition of Husker Online Headlines.